Three Islands.
We're back.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Every episode, it seems like, is very enriching.
Yep.
Not only to me, but I'm sure it is enriching to you. So please rate, review, share, subscribe, obviously, to the Marriage Moments, and leave a comment and tell us how you guys are being blessed. How are you being blessed, Elena?
I am being blessed by just sharing this time with you and being able to share real snippets of our marriage so that it could possibly help someone.
You know, you never know when you're living through it and in it, how you are actually depositing into an account where you can withdraw and help someone else, like in marriage.
Oh my gosh. That's so huge, because I never really think about it like that. Like, oh, well, I'm going through this and hopefully this can help someone else. A lot of times I'm just trying to survive this or enjoy this or whatever. With that in mind, I guess being present in the moment and being mentally aware and things, May, which we're in day 2 of May.
So when we recorded this.
It's
May the 2nd, 2024. And May is what?
Mental Health Awareness Month.
Oh, wow. What an amazing thing to dedicate some time to just evaluate and be aware of people or even yourself that have mental health issues.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to talk about mental health and in marriage, because
so important.
It is a big thing. And whether it's a big thing like, bipolar disorder or the big, depression or anxiety, social anxiety, all of the mental health challenges that people face, it's one thing to face it alone, right? Or just with you and say your immediate family, mom, dad, siblings, but it's another thing to face it with a spouse.
Yeah.
Because your spouse is choosing you, and sometimes people choose people and they aren't aware of their mental health situation or status, because mental health is one of those things that doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about race, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. Everybody at some form has mental health challenge.
Yeah, and I think that often we hear that phrase mental health, and it is a buzzword. You hear actors and actresses, entertainers, people that are in sports. You hear people talking about mental health. So what I like to do is give a little clarity of what does it mean. What does that mean, mental health? Well, mental health for me is the condition your mindset is in. Yeah. Your mind. Like now, a brain is one thing. You can have chemical imbalance. That's your brain. You can touch the brain. But mental is the way you process things, your mind, how you understand things, and the way you see things, and how you frame life. Yeah. Like your perspective, like there's so many biases, cognitive biases, confirmation biases that people come to the table, filters, and that's your mental, right? Yeah. And that can really frame the way you process life. So I think it's so important to talk about mental health in marriage.
Yeah, well, there's statistics out there. I'm going to read a couple. So mental health disorders increase the risk of divorce by 20 to 80%.
Oh my gosh, that's a big gap.
Yeah, it is. Of course.
That's pretty high. I mean, in order to, so if you come to the table with a mental health issue, you just increase the chances. Now, it's already a pretty high statistic on divorce anyway, even in Christianity. Christian marriages, it's the same, it has an exact same divorce rate as secular marriages. Right. Yeah, and so now if you bring mental health issues to the table, now that increases. Oh my gosh.
And then bipolar disorder are 2 to 3 times higher than even that. And then about 45% of individuals with PTSD experience divorce or separation. So it is a very real thing for an individual to face, but it's according to statistics, it's even a greater thing to face in a union with someone.
Yeah, because you chose to do life and accept all their idiosyncrasies, all their hang-ups, all their hurts. And so when it says PTSD, I want to stay right there, because PTSD is something that we all want to process properly. That word is thrown out there a lot too. PTSD, post-traumatic, stress
syndrome.
Gosh.
Or disorder. Because that's a D. Yeah.
Wow. Work with us now.
Yeah.
And so PTSD, so everyone has some type of trauma in the past, because post meaning past.
Yeah.
So everybody has some type of trauma, and it begins to become a syndrome, and it's a disorder. It brings disorder in your life. I don't know anyone that have not had some type of post-traumatic issues. Let's talk about it. Maybe you had parents that argued verbally real loud in the room. That's trauma.
Yeah.
You were maybe 5, 6 years old. That's trauma.
Yeah.
What if you had, let's go a little further, maybe you had your parents actually physically abused right in front of you. That's trauma. How about if you were verbally abused yourself? That's trauma.
Yeah.
What if you guys were below the poverty level and you guys didn't have much food in the refrigerator? What if you seen any type of violence at school?
Around you,
in your community, right? And sometimes in our community, did you know that in the neighborhoods, the barrios or the ghettos, that poverty is higher? Obviously people's credit score is lower, but people have more mental health issues in those areas because of the traumatic issues that they deal with. It affects the way they deal with money. It affects the way they deal with their family. It affects the way they come to actually work. And so post-traumatic issues, we all have them in some form or fashion. Sometimes people can have post-traumatic issues even from middle class or even higher class, upper class, where the parent is constantly at work. And that's traumatic for a child, that they have an absentee parent.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just wanted to paint the picture of PTSD because it's so, it's broad.
Yeah.
And it's trauma.
And that one probably hits everybody, whereas some people may say, well, I've never been depressed, or I don't experience anxiety, which those are at an all-time high as well. After COVID, a lot of people report being socially awkward, social anxiety, depression, because we were separated from people for so long, and people are fighting through those type of mental health issues at a greater scale. That being said, I believe that one of the greatest gifts that you could ever give yourself, your spouse, or your future spouse is to seek help and get healing from your trauma. Everybody comes to the table with some form of trauma, and our childhood is mostly where all of it took place. As somebody posted, it was a quote. They said, people who are against therapy are usually the people that their loved ones need therapy for or because of,
Yeah, they're the most toxic, right?
Right. And so when I read that quote, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, that is so true,
And I know this answer, but just for the viewers. So obviously you must be pro-therapy.
I am pro-therapy because I believe that Jesus paid it all. Yes, he did.
Yes.
He did. And because he did, he advised us in his word that in a multitude of counsel.
Oh, come on.
Let's go to the word.
Yeah.
Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no guidance, the people fall.
I don't want to do that. I'm sure you don't want to fall either.
Right. But in an abundance of counselors, there is victory.
And so I want to make sure that people understand that God actually brought people here on earth to actually help us.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that he limited totally to people his help, but he left his Holy Spirit here.
Yeah.
And he wants to help people. And often I've seen it's through other people.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you have ministers, that's why you have counselors, that's why you have lawyers, that's why you have doctors.
People who specialize, and there are doctors who specialize in our mental health.
Yes.
And I personally have a therapist. You have a therapist.
Yes, I do.
Because we help people with life. We life coach and help people with their issues. And we live in the highs and the lows with people as pastors. Mm-hmm. And so our pastor encouraged us, excuse me, we also deal with allergies. That's what's going on with these voices.
Yeah.
But he encouraged us.
From that, right?
Oh my God, I'm so over it. I'm so over this voice, and I sing. Sidebar, my singing voice is off. It's been really tough. Yeah. But anyway, we both have therapists to help us deal with our trauma, so we can be emotionally healthy in order to help people become emotionally healthy. Yeah.
I think that there's different arenas that you need counseling, talking about advisors and counseling. Often people think that you can have a one and done leader or counselor, but for years we've had counselors legally. A person we've been doing life with going on 13 years. Mm-hmm. Well, 13 years.
Yeah.
And going on 14 actually. And he advises us legally. He's a Christian.
Yeah.
We've acquired therapists that they're Christian counselors.
Yeah.
We've
That's
acquired
important.
Businessmen that can counsel us when we're dealing with business. And we obviously we have a pastor that he counsels us spiritually.
Yeah.
And I just think that sometimes we don't have enough counsel to be able to help work out these traumatic approaches that we have in life, whether it's marriage. We have people that we honor that are married. It's like some people like, oh my God, they've been married 50 years now. People that, you see people that have a great marriage modeled out, and you're like, wow, that is amazing. And we are very big. We're advocates of therapeutic counseling, and it looks different in different approaches, because you may bring your trauma to a legal situation, and you're dealing with it, you're framing this based on trauma. Your marriage, that's what we're talking about now, but this is all the way around. It's not just for marriage, but if you as a person are better and healthy mentally, you bring your mental health to whatever thing that you do. Everything, right?
Yes, everything. Our therapists are Christians, and that's important.
Oh yeah.
Because as a Christian, we're Christians. By our faith is in Jesus Christ, and you never want to be getting advice from someone who's contradicting your worldview. So you have a biblical worldview. You want the person who's counseling you to have a biblical worldview on whatever topic. If, like Billy was saying, there's counselors in so many different aspects of life. Mental health is no exception. You want to have someone who's leading you and guiding you according to God's word. And so I just can't stress enough how Jesus in therapy has really helped me in my life. So and good. I wouldn't say I had a whole huge trunk of trauma. I had my fair share, and I feel the need for it. So I cannot encourage you enough. If you've had, and if you've come from, where you come from, and you can go down through the archives of your mind and realize, man, I was exposed to a lot of things as a child that I probably should never have been exposed to. That is trauma. And if you're not careful, that is the filter and the lens that you approach life with, even when you don't want to. It just flows unconsciously, subconsciously, or whatever the word is. It just automatically comes forth. And sometimes, have you ever taken a step back and wondered, man, why did I say that? Why did that make me so upset? My goodness. I mean, it was just a simple question, and that blew up times 10 for no reason. A lot of times we're responding out of trauma that we as adults have learned to pack up neatly and place in an area and leave it there. But can I just tell you today, and you too, babe, the Holy Spirit wants us to deal with those things, because because Jesus died to give us life and life more abundantly. And I believe that abundant life is connected to our health and well-being.
Oh, yeah.
In marriage, it's so important because what affects me as a person inadvertently affects Billy as a person.
Oh, yeah.
And vice versa. You're going to affect your spouse. And a lot of times, Pastor Herbert says people have good hearts, they just have bad practices.
Yeah. Pastor Herbert is our pastor. He's the pastor over People's Church with campuses all over the Oklahoma City area and Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah, and so he says that people have good hearts, bad practices, and those bad practices are most likely rooted in some form of trauma that we've experienced as kids. So we're talking about mental health awareness today because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. It's May, and it's a super important topic. And I feel like a lot of couples don't get the fullness of marriage and the fullness of the love that they can exchange with one another, the transparency, the vulnerability, and all of the things because there's blockage there.
Yeah.
There's blockage there.
You're not getting the authentic person who they supposed to be because they have all these layers of trauma. And so now you're wondering why she responds this way or why he responds this way. Well, with that trauma being revealed and dealt with, now you can get the person that they really were created to be.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's arguments, like you say, there's things that are taking place, responses, views, skepticism, fears, worries, anxieties about things that if they were healthy mentally, they probably wouldn't approach it from that angle. And it definitely affects your counterpart. Like if you're married and this individual always has these fears about a particular thing and they don't have a biblical approach or a biblical worldview, or they have not walked out of this trauma and being set free, now that's going to overflow into your decision making in life. It's like, oh my God, now you're bound. You can't go anywhere without them being fearful. You can't, take any risk, and live by faith because of this fear. And it's like, we all come with some trauma. Let me tell you one of the traumatic things I brought to the table in our marriage. For me, I didn't know it until I started going to therapy and taking a deeper dive. I felt like God showed me about 3 years into being a Christian that I had abandonment issues because I remember one time I was praying. Now, we had a conference, a Christian conference where it was worship, it was prayer, and oh my God, it was so saturated. I could feel God tangibly. I could feel him. I'm like, man, this is amazing. Well, about 2 weeks later, I felt like I couldn't sense him. I felt like, where's he at? And I was praying and asking God, you told me you'll never leave me nor forsake me. I'm throwing God's word in his face like you said this as if he was a liar or something, right? And so it went on for about a week or so. And then eventually God finally responded. And he said, yeah, I said that. But do you believe it? And it took me on a journey to identify, why do I not believe that God is here? Just because I can't feel him? Because I can't sense him? And it took me on a journey of evaluating, man, my biological father, he wasn't there. And I felt, and this is a truth that I could not deny. Not bashing my dad. I love my dad. He's passed away in 2019. Love my dad. Amazing. This is not a shot at him. This is just a reality. And I felt like I approached my spiritual, God, Father, just like my biological father. I sensed that he was like him. Because I didn't know any point of reference of what a father is. They always say father in the Bible. He's your heavenly father and all this stuff. And the only point of reference I had for a father was my biological father. And I felt like that's why I felt like if I didn't feel him there, I didn't have enough faith
Yeah.
And it was a filter that I had to begin to start evaluating in life, even in relationships. I would start abandoning relationships. I'm going to abandon you before you abandon me. Abandonment issues. I'm going to make a call. Yep, I'm cutting this off. Whether it was, and I look back, it was that way with girlfriends. It was that way with business ventures. It was that way with all types of people. I'm going to cut it off before you cut me off because I have abandonment issues and I don't want that. I don't want to have that feeling again of being abandoned. And that's one. And I brought that to the table in our marriage. And when we got married, you know, we would have debates. Now, this woman have never brought up the D word. I can't even say it because she told me not to say it no more.
Yeah, but you might want to.
Divorce.
Yeah.
And so I brought it up because when we had an argument or a debate, or we would get real tense. I was like, well, I'll just leave.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm gonna abandon you before you abandon me.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so, you know, obviously we worked through that, and you know, we have to deal with that as it approached and as it came. But that was one of the things I brought to the table in marriage, and so it makes me ask you the same question: did you bring any mental health things that you're aware of to our marriage that you know pops out, so it maybe can help the people?
Yeah. So I had a similar upbringing in the sense that my biological father, he did not raise me and my older sister. He abandoned us to be raised by our mother. My mother married the man who raised me, and I consider my dad when I was 10 years old. And so, of course, by the time you're 10 years old, there's some things that are cemented already by the time you're 10. You know? I
didn't know that because she was a teacher for 15, 16 years. I guess in education, you learn
growth and development.
Can you help us with that, just to get that?
It's just, you know, so there are stages in our growth and development, you know, birth, infancy, toddler, you know, small child. Those are formative years. And so by the time I believe the number is roughly 3 to 4 years old, you're pretty much who you are. Like your little attitude, your character is pretty much formed. And by the time you're 10, the semen is kind of soft. It's still workable, but you know, you're pretty much who you are, you know. And so when my mom met my dad, who raised me, it took me a few years. Now that I go back through the archives of my mind, and I start, you know, pinpointing times in that I exhibited behaviors because of the fact that I was abandoned by my biological dad as a kid. So one of those, for example, is trust. I had a really hard time trusting that Willie Henderson loved me. He accepted me, which is the dad that raised me, that he loved me, like not just kids in general, but specifically me. He chose my mom who had me and my sister, and so he chose us. You know, I could not process that one for a long time. Wow. And so I had a hard time trusting that he would be here tomorrow, that he would provide for me, that he would be on my team. You know, if something went down, that he would protect me. I had a hard time believing that. And so, but, you know, he was in my life for over 20 years. And so he, you know, the relationship just blossomed into something beautiful because as the time went on, the Lord began to heal my trust issue on that level. Now, when I got married, when you and I got married, it kind of resurfaced all over again, you know, because by the time I met Billy, I was doing me, you know, I had a career, I had my own money, I was a very independent woman, so as they say, and I felt like I was doing it my way, you know, and I had God, I served in my church, I had my life, you know. So then when I met you, and I understood that in a marriage, you know, eventually I was going to have to start yielding and submitting and all of those things. It wasn't so much that it was because it wasn't modeled. My mom was a really good wife to my dad when he was alive, and so I had the model there, but because I still had trust issues, it was hard for me to just be like, you know, if I let Billy know who I fully am, does he still choose me? Does he still want me? Will he protect me? Or do I have to take on protecting myself? Will he provide for me? Or do I have to, try to figure out a way, to make my life happen? And the reason why, I was just having all those issues was because it was rooted in my trust issues, my attachment, my abandonment issues. And so all of those things have been brought to the surface and are being dealt with for me, and that's one of the reasons why I did that kind of work on my own, but I got a professional, a therapist, to help me go even deeper so that I could experience even more healing, because I feel like there's a level of vulnerability and transparency between us that still has yet to be found, and that we can still share after almost 14 years of
17
marriage.
years together and 14 years married, and we're still going deeper. And I think that we got a great marriage, first of all.
Yeah.
But we're both finding out that it's even a different and deeper level of intimacy that we can have.
Yeah.
And because we want to grow. I think that when you said modeled, you can have something modeled, meaning someone can reveal it to you in their lifestyle. They can live it. They walk it out right in front of you. It's modeled. But then there's a gap between being modeled and it becoming a movement.
Yeah.
Like you can see someone else model it, but it's not a movement in your life. And that's what, and I think the gap, what we fill in the gap with is a healthy mental state.
Absolutely.
Because the way a person think within himself,
there it is.
That's who they really are.
Yep.
That's who they are. So I can have it modeled all I want. I can see you submit. I can see you love your wife. But before it becomes a movement in my life, I need to be transformed. I need to get some healing in my mind.
Absolutely.
These traumatic behaviors that I've had in the past, PTSD, I need these layers peeled back so I can be set free so it can become a movement in my marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. Because unhealed trauma doesn't stay neatly packed away. It just doesn't.
We wish, right?
We wish we could just put that little bow on there and just leave it. But it doesn't. It spills over into your sex life. It spills over into your money. It spills over into your parenting.
Yes.
And that's how people, buzzword in church is generational curse this and generational curse that. One of the biggest generational curses is unhealed trauma.
Oh my.
Because that's where
you preaching.
That's where all of this stuff is perpetuated.
So true.
You're doing to your kid what was done to you.
And even worse now.
And even worse. And sometimes it's not seen as worse because you feel like you're doing better than your parent. My mom we were poor. She didn't even have this. We didn't even have that. At least my kids have this and that. And that's, we tend to think that that's the cure. But it's really not, because you can never give what you don't have.
Yeah, it's the wrong measurement as well. Like if I'm measuring my marriage based on someone else's marriage, because they modeled a certain way. That's why it's so important to get healing mentally and have a strong mental health so it become a movement the way God intended for it to be. The measurement is not another marriage.
Right.
As much as I see someone else have it modeled, I need to have my trauma, unpacked, revealed to me, first of all, unpacked, addressed, overcome. And as I overcome that, I come to realize this is not what God intended for me. And even that great model marriage, as I begin to start becoming healthy, I said, wow, some of that wasn't as healthy as I thought it was.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Man, they didn't quit. But, man, all Dad did was prepare, he just went to work and provided and sit on the couch with the remote and watch TV, but he was absent. But he provided, but they didn't quit. They were married 65 years. Great, but that may not be the model that you want to follow.
That's so true.
And so it's so important to unpack our own trauma, and then we can see clearly, I think, right? We can see clearly, like, man, this is not actually the way God intended for it to be. And that's the important thing.
Yeah. So, well, again, we're talking about mental health awareness in marriage and the importance of it, the importance of being aware of where your spouse is. You know, because some things are triggers for your spouse, and you're trying to figure out, like, you can't put your finger on it, but they're always tripping about this one thing, or this one thing always turns into 10 other things. Well, it's probably a little soft spot, and they feel threatened, or they feel embarrassed, or they feel humiliated or angry even, and it may not even be about you, but it may be about past trauma. So we just cannot encourage you all enough to, one of the things that we practice is just talking about it. You know, sometimes we had a weird conversation today, and it starts off okay, then it goes to 10, and then we bring it back down. So we work through some things, and I think we work through difficult conversations. We don't quit on them, and that's important. You can't not have the difficult conversation.
I think that when people avoid conflict, that's something that can really be traumatic and build up a lot of resentful residue in your marriage because you're not even dealing with it. Like, I would rather us have a conflict healthy and we walk away, and sometimes it may even start off like little tense, right? But you know, when you walk through it and you talk through it and you come to a healthy place and a mindset, and you may not agree. You may still disagree, but the reality is it's healthy. You respect her opinion, she respects your opinion, and you walk through that. So many people don't know how to have conflict resolution. And because when conflict comes, it's like I either avoid conflict and try to be the peaceful person. I'm always happy, I'm always peaceful. Or you're
I found out it's called fawning.
Fawning.
You have flight, fight, or freeze, and fawning.
Fawning is playing the humble little submissive. You know, I'm with everything. It's like no. If you don't agree, just go ahead and just be honest and say you don't agree. You know, and we can work through that as well. Especially in marriage, because I accept you no matter whether you agree or not. So,
but see, that getting your spouse to believe that is a different. See, so that's why you need a therapist to help you get to the root of that issue. Why don't I believe it? You know, my husband tells me I'm beautiful all the time. I believe it.
Come on now, you should.
But there's a lot of women that don't. You know, their husband can say you're perfect just the way you are, and they still are spending thousands of dollars to look like somebody else. Or, you know, your husband can say, you know, give you all the compliments in the book, and his don't mean nothing. You want to hear from every other man around you. So those things are deep-seated issues that, you know, we bring to the table in a marriage. And we need to address them.
I think as people go on that journey, I think, one, it's very good to have a therapist. That's not at the top of the list. Prioritize a relationship with Jesus.
For sure.
Prioritize find a community in your local church. You know, getting in a small group or you know, doing life with other people that are healthy. Because then you'll begin to see, like, man, the way I frame things and the way I see it, it's not even healthy. Like, you hear somebody else saying, like, whoa, you're almost like, but don't be intimidated by that. So, you know, understand that you're on your journey. Yes, you may not frame it like that now. And then obviously we've been talking about a therapist. Get you a therapist where you can go there. Because you may not find people like us. We're pastors. And so, like, you know, I can't find a person in our church and just dump all my issues on because I'm leading them. That's not even healthy. I can't even come to our pastoral staff and do that. Sometimes I can't even find another pastor to actually do that. So I found a Christian therapist. So I say, you know, I just unpack that does not replace my relationship with God.
Absolutely.
That does not replace. In the morning, you know, when it's time to internalize and reflect and pray and get in God's word, that is priority. Because you can do therapy with no relationship with God, and then that's unhealthy. You can do God with no therapy, and then it becomes unhealthy. So you want to do life with other people, and you want to do life with God himself as well.
Absolutely. You did our whole recap. Because that's what I really did want to reiterate and stress that. our foundation, our roots, our hope and trust alone is in Christ alone.
Yes.
He's the chief cornerstone, period.
Absolutely.
You know, but because God is all knowing and all wise, he left doctors of all kinds to help us as human beings to be our best and healthiest selves. So this being Mental Health Awareness Month, we just want to encourage you to know that mental health in marriage is important. So what would you say, just one more question before we go, what would you say, tell the people, give them some advice on how to help their spouse who could be dealing with either severe or moderate or, you know, somewhere in the middle, mental health situations that maybe one spouse can identify and the other one can't.
It's so good of a question. It's great. I think that if you have your spouse and you can sense that there's some mental health issues, I think, you know, first and foremost, be gently approach them, not point out what's going on, but, you know, having questions.
Yeah.
Just gently, you know, have questions, and that means that you have to have check-ins.
Okay.
You know, check-ins are so important. Like, you know, don't let life just go by. Every moment matters. Even your mental health matters.
Yeah.
It matters. That's what this is all about. You know, every moment matters in Christianity, in our marriage, in our personal life, in parenting. And in this context, we're talking about mental health in marriage.
Yeah.
And so if you have a spouse, you want to check in.
Yeah.
You want to check in. What do I mean by check in? You know, maybe it's, you know, at the end of the day, you find 30 minutes and ask, like, how you doing?
Yeah.
Is there anything on your heart?
Yeah.
It's one of my questions I ask. Like, anything on your heart right now? And one of the beautiful things is you know, is as much as I know, she opens up and she lets me know what's on her heart at the time, what's on your mind. How do you feel?
Yeah.
That's a good question. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
You know, and then when they say how they feel, there's no, even if it seems like it's an attack on you, like saying, I felt this way because you said this, you cannot debate how they feel.
Right.
I mean,
it's real for them.
You got to watch out from defending. I've had to learn from this. I'm learning not to defend myself because I made you feel this way. I cannot dictate how you feel. That's truly how you feel.
Yeah.
And I asked, right? Okay, she told me. So
Yeah.
listen and hear out. So those check-ins are so important. And the only way you're really going to be able to find out where a person's at mentally, emotionally, you got to ask.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there are some people, they're rare, that they just come, hey, how you doing? And they just roll out all how they feel, what they're thinking. And it's rare. I'm like somewhat one of those type of individuals, but because I'll just, you know where I stand.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I am. I mean, I'm you know, sometimes I'm transparent to a fault, right? But the reality is you want to ask and have check-ins and say, hey, babe, how you feeling?
Yeah.
What's on your heart? What are you thinking right now? What do you think about that? And though, if you make it regular to have check-ins, men like have so many check-ins, it don't make no sense. I mean, we have check-ins throughout the day, we have check-ins weekly, then we have a deeper check-in, we're like get away, and every about 3 months we like to get away and just get away from everything, no work, you know, put our cell phones possibly in the hotel room or the Airbnb, wherever we're staying, and we may have one just to guide us around, you know. That's a common practice we've done in the past, and what we'll do is we won't check the emails, and we'll just check in. It's a little deeper dive.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, okay, I know we've been checking in weekly, but, you know, is there anything that's, you know, because life happens so fast.
Yeah.
And if you don't slow it down purposely to have check-ins with your spouse, man, you'll have things in your heart piled up.
Oh, wow.
You'll have things that you feel that you never expressed. You have things that you are thinking that you have not, you know, communicated. And so I would say check-ins. And I know that's a long answer for what you asked me, but I think check-ins are so important, asking those questions of how you feel.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Have those check-ins. And like another thing that you said was, you know, patiently listen.
Gently,
you know, gently speak and patiently listen.
Yes.
And then you are on the journey with your spouse, getting to know them. If you feel like suggesting that they may need some deeper help, pray and ask God to give you the words to be rightfully seasoned in order for them to be able to receive them. But it's our prayer that everybody gets all the help that they need.
Yes.
Because healthy marriages bring healthy families. Right?
Yeah.
And healthy families is what builds God's church and advances his kingdom. And so we want individuals healthy.
Yeah, and it all starts with a mental health.
Right, exactly. We want people mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally healthy. We're talking about mental health right now, so we want everybody healthy as individuals. If you're single, couples, if you're married, if you're a single parent, whatever your status is, it is our prayer that you seek to be mentally healthy.
And make sure you share this with all your friends. Challenge people to subscribe to our channel, because we're going to be uploading content. And mental health is something we're talked about this episode, and I think that it will really, really benefit a lot of people. So share this with other people. As we close up, we know that every moment matters, and your mental health matters. God bless, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.